Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'll be explaining you about manufacturing of bricks. So manufacturing of bricks generally consists of four major operations or four major steps. First one is preparation of brick earth, second one is molding of the bricks, third one is drying of the bricks, and fourth one is burning of the bricks. So let's get into each operation in detail and let's see what key role each operation plays and how we are finally ending up with the brick. We are starting with the clay and we are ending up with a brick. So let's see the entire process involved in this phenomenon. So you can see right now I have shown you the flow chart. So if you can memorize this flow chart, it will be easy to you to remember the step-by-step procedure. So if you see the first operation, what I told you, the major operation, which is preparation of brick earth, it again consists of steps like unsoiling, digging, weathering, blending, and tempering. Later on it goes to the molding and then drying and then the burning of brick, and ultimately we get the brick. So now in this video I'll be explaining you about each step in detail, and let's see how are we finally coming out with a brick. Okay, so first one, as I told you, the first operation is preparation of brick earth. So what does this preparation of brick earth means? This operation is again consisting of a few more steps. In the sense, this big operation called the preparation of brick earth is again consisting of the following operations. They are selection of site and unsoiling, digging, cleaning, weathering, blending, and tempering. So first of all, what is selection of site and unsoiling? So you have to be careful with the site selection. Means you have to have a good idea of which type of clay is available. So one should be very clear with the site selection. And also coming to unsoiling, unsoiling means what we do is uh, whatever clay you wanted to use to manufacture brick, you shouldn't use the top layer one. Why? Because the top layer of the soil or the clay will consist of some impurities, like it may be subjected to some gravel, or it may be subjected to some coarse sand, or else lime or conker particles, or any organic matter it may contain. That's why we do not use it. So which type of clay you need to use? Just dig up the top layer up to a depth of 20 centimeters. Okay, so once you dig up to 20 centimeters from the surface, what will happen? We expect a good type of clay which is free from all the impurities mentioned would be available. Okay, so next coming to the next step is digging. So what do you mean by digging? So after removing the top layer of the earth, what we do is we generally completely dig out the entire clay from the ground, and then we try to spread this clay onto the ground level. Okay, and what we do is we you can add any additive at this place, like fly ash or rice cash or sand, whatever you want. You can just add the additive and then you can spread it on the ground. And then what after spreading on the ground, what we can do is you just try to maintain the spread clay, whatever you have dug from the ground, whatever you have digged from the ground, you are trying to spread it on the ground. But see that it is just looking like a heap. Okay, so you pour the entire clay in the form of a heap. Okay, so whose height is around 60 to 120 centimeter. Coming to cleaning step, so whatever the clay you are getting, we, even though we are digging 20 centimeter below from the earth surface, we do not expect a very good clean clay to come out. Why? Because if there was any trees or any vegetable matter cut out, some roots or something may be left over, some pebbles may be left over. So we will try to wash, we try to clean the entire clay in this cleaning step, what we call the cleaning step. And here we wash the clay. Okay, we completely water wash the clay, and also we screen it. Means in the sense we are trying to remove all the visible impurities, and that's called a screening. And then we say that our clay is cleaned. Next we'll move on to weathering. So what do you mean by weathering? Generally stones or pebbles or roots, etc., you're trying to remove them. Why? Because they are visible to you, so you're able to remove them from the earth surface, and as told earlier, you are trying to put it in the form of a heap. Okay, fine. So whatever soil you are putting in the form of a heap, it is left for atmosphere for the weathering process to take place. So this process takes place for a period of one complete month or more than it. Why? Because this weathering concept will help to develop homogeneity in the entire soil, particularly if it is from different sources. Means whatever clay you obtain for making brick is from different sources, and also to eliminate impurities which get oxidized sometimes. So that's the reason we allow the clay to get weathered. Okay, and even soluble salts in the clay can be also eroded by rain up to some extent, which otherwise will cause scumming at the time of burning of the bricks in the kiln. And also the soil should be turned over at least twice, and it should be ensured that the entire soil is wet throughout the period of weathering. And also, to keep it wet, you may spray water as often as necessary, and hence the plasticity and strength of the clay will be improved by exposing this clay to weathering action. Next, coming to blending. So what is blending? So the earth or the clay is then mixed with sandy soils or calcareous soils, like what we discussed in the earlier classification, in suitable proportions to modify the composition if necessary. And you may take the help of some additives also. So we add moderate amount of water so that we can get the right consistency, and this mass is then mixed uniformly with spades. Okay, addition of water to this soil at all the dumps is necessary for easy mixing and workability, but it should be in a controlled manner. Why? Because excess of water may create a problem. It may affect the, ultimately in future it may affect the size and shape of the finished brick. So see that excess of water should not be added, and also during the operations it can create a problem in molding and drying. So one has to be careful while adding water to the clay. Next step is tempering. So what is tempering? Tempering is simply like kneading. You know, kneading, right? For example, if you are making a chapati or some roti thing, what we do? We mix water with the flour, and then we make it a dough. And before making the chapati, we try to knead it, right? You try to press it with your hand. That's called as kneading. So just try to assume the same concept we are doing here. So in the place of flour, you assume clay. So again, you're adding water. The same fashion. So tempering means you are trying to knead the earth, and this will be done with the help of your feet. So there will be people, workmen, who will try to press the clay with feet. I think you can observe this where people are making pots. So generally pots are made up of clay, right? So there you can observe people keep kneading the clay, water, I mean the clay which is mixed with water, they try to knead it. So why one should knead this clay? Why? Because to make the mass of clay very stiff. Okay, and also uh, it to give good plasticity for your clay. Okay, and generally this will be carried out by storing the soil in a cool place, about in layer form, that is also each layer having about 30 centimeter thickness, and for not less than 36 hours. So minimum duration is 36 hours of kneading is required, and hence we ensure that after 36 hours we got a good homogeneity in the clay mass whatever we have taken, and hence it can be sent forward for the next process. And also if the amount of clay is huge, if it is in bulk, so one can't complete the tempering action in less than or equal to 36 hours, I mean 3 days. Then you can take the help of pug mills. Okay, so pug mills are those equipments which are used for tempering the clay, and hence that operation is called as pugging. Okay, so right now in the figure you can observe a pug mill. So generally a pug mill consists of a conical iron tube. So this pug mill will be sunk 60 centimeters down into the earth surface, and in between you can see this one vertical shaft, right? So for that vertical shaft, you can see a number of horizontal arms. So here you can see 1, 2, and 3. You have horizontal arms, and for that horizontal arms, you can see knives fitted, right? Right, yes. And you have also a long arm on the top, okay, which is also called as central shaft. So what we do is, one end of the shaft will be fitted to this vertical shaft in the between, and the other end of this long arm will be driven by bullocks, means ox, you know ox, right? So people in the earlier days, if there is they used to fix ox to one end of the long arm, and as the ox rotates around, this complete arm rotates. So in the sense, this vertical shaft rotates. When the vertical shaft is rotating, what happens, these horizontal arms also will rotate. So what we do, we pour water and clay into it, and hence the kneading of the clay takes place. Means, to say very simply, it's like our blender. Means you have a mixer, right? So what we do, we pour our ingredient into it, and inside the mixer you can see some blades, right? So assume those blades to be like horizontal arms and knives. You pour into it and you switch on the motor, what will happen, it will turn round. So that's how the same operation takes place, okay. But nowadays, this bullocks are eliminated, and alternatively we got steam driven, diesel driven, and electric power also we have to run it. Okay, so the other end of the long arm will be fitted to a electrical power supply. Once you switch on, this complete setup keeps rotating inside, and hence the clay and water will get blended up properly. Okay, and if you require any additional water, you can pour it from the top of the pug mill. Okay, so this whatever I mean to say, whatever amount of clay you're putting into it, in this pug mill, you can get around 1500 bricks from this pug mill. Okay, so once the tempering action is done, our clay is ready, which is to be going into the molding process. So the second step is molding of the bricks. So molding is giving a proper shape to your bricks. So you see, generally bricks are rectangular in shape. So giving a rectangular shape or giving a proper shape to your bricks is called molding process. So which type of clay we are taking? The tempered clay, means the clay what we got from our first operation. And generally molding is done in two ways. One is hand molding and machine molding. Hand molding is again is of two types, means hand molding also can be done in two ways, which is ground molding, and one is which is table molding. Means, in the sense, hand molding means you are taking help of a human being, a person who is doing the molding process with the help of his hands. It can be done on the ground level or it can be done on a table. That's why it's called ground molding and table molding. Second one is machine molding, where the machine does the molding process. In this, again, we have two methods. Again, we have a dry press method and we have a plastic method. Now, okay, let's get into them in detail. Coming to the first one, as told, hand molding. Hand molding is again of two types, as told to you, which is ground molding and table molding. So you can see both diagrams on the screen. The first one is ground molding. You can see the person is doing the molding process on the ground. So what we do is, whatever the tempered clay, whatever the needed clay we got from the first operation, that will be inserted into the mold. Having a frog, it will be pressed and then it will be taken out. Okay, same way, if you can see the second figure, it is table molding. So the entire step will be done on the table. Okay, so this is how the ground molding is taking place. So you can observe very clearly in the diagram. So coming to in detailed explanation of ground molding, what we do is, the ground will be leveled and sand will be sprinkled on it. Why? Because since we are doing the operation on the ground, clay is an adhesive, so it may stick to the ground. So hence, when you're demolding it, the brick may not come in a good shape. So we try to sprinkle sand on it, and then what we do is, the molded bricks are left on the ground for drying. But before that, what we have to do is, we just uh, water the mold, and then we fill the complete clay, the tempered clay what we got, into this mold, and we try to press it uh, into such that the complete mold is filled with this clay. And then on the top, we try to make it level by a wire or any trowel you can take, and just level the surface, and hence you get a good brick. And remember, the bricks whatever you're doing from the ground molding process do not have frog in general. Okay, Next, coming to so you can see how the person is doing. So you can observe in this mold there is no frog, right? So you can see on the ground there is sand sprinkled, and the person has taken the mold and is trying to completely fill the mold with the tempered clay. Next is table molding. So what is table molding? So we have bricks which are molded on stock boards, okay, and these stock boards will be nailed on the molding table. So you have a molding table, and on that you have a stock board, and on that stock board your mold will be fixed, okay. And even they have scope for formation of frog. If you can see here in the second diagram, right, there is a scope for formation of frog also. So what we do is we fill the complete mold with clay as done in ground molding itself, and then what we do is a thin board called pallet is placed over the mold. So what this pallet, you can see the pallet board here in the figure also. So what we do is we try to place this pallet on the mold. So whatever the mold which is containing the brick is then slowly lifted from the stock board, and it is inverted so that the molded clay along the mold will rest on the pallet, and hence the mold is then removed as explained earlier in the same process like ground molding, okay. And then it is taken to the drying site, means something like your what do you call if you have baked a cake earlier, what you do once in the baking tray or in your mold, cake mold, you try to bake the cake, and after that what we try to do, once the baking is done, cake is ready, we try to cool it, and on that you try to place a plate, and then you just reverse it, right? The same fashion what I've explained you. So in the place of a plate, just try to imagine a palette, okay. That's about table molding. Let's go for quickly next one, which is machine molding. So as told, machines will take care, and it's quite economical, and also you can produce bricks in a large number when you are going for machine molding. So machine molding can be done in either of the ways, with the help of a plastic clay machine and also with the help of a dry clay machine, okay. So if we move on to plastic clay machines or plastic method, what I told you in the beginning. So what we do is the clay, whatever we got from the pug mill, it is sent inside. You can see here, it is sent inside a rectangular opening of brick size by means of an auger, and also clay will come out of the opening in the form of a bar, and the bricks are cut from the bar by a frame which consists of several wires at a distance of brick size. So this is a very quick and economic process. One can, you can easily observe in the figure, you can see the person who is sending the red color, this one, the brick of the bar of brick will be sent inside, you can see here the person is pouring the tempered clay into this machine, and it comes out in the form of a bar, means like a chocolate it comes out. And then what we do is, here you can see here where my pointer is moving, you have some wires, and these wire size will be exactly the size of a brick, and once this bar is pressed through this, the bricks will be cut easily, okay. Next is we have the dry press method. So the moist or powdered clay is fed into the mold on a mechanically operated press where it is subjected to very high pressure, and the clay in the mold takes already the shape of a brick. Here in the sense, we can directly put the blended clay, means we can stop the operation at the blending step itself, you need not go for the tempering step. So directly that blended clay will be poured into the machine, and then you can pour water here, so no tempering operation is required, directly tempering will be done in such type of machine. That's why it is so called dry clay, and here we called it as plastic clay, means it was already a tempered clay. This is a blended clay, it's not mixed with water, right? So here in this machine we pour the dry clay powder, the blended clay, and then the water, and the tempering action will be done here itself. And then we, with under high pressure, we try to press the block into the forms of bricks, and hence you can observe you get good bricks. So these bricks will be more dense, smooth and uniform than ordinary bricks, okay. But one has to remember that these bricks must be burned carefully, otherwise they will crack easily. This is about molding. Let's go for drying. Right now our molding is done, our bricks are ready. So either you do hand molding or machine molding. Finally our raw bricks are ready. So what we do is these bricks will should be allowed for drying, right? So we will be having around 30% of moisture content in the bricks after the molding process. So what we have to do, our main intention of a drying step is to remove the moisture content, right? So to remove the moisture content, generally not to, yeah, in drying process, our moisture content will be around, we try to maintain before going to the burning step. After the entire drying process completed, we try to ensure that there is only up to 7% of moisture content in your brick. Okay. So main objective of drying step is to remove the moisture so as to control the shrinkage and also to save fuel and time during burning, right? If it is wet, which is having more moisture, you require more fuel to burn, but if it's already dried, you just require less amount of fuel to burn. Okay. So one has to remember that the drying process should be a little bit slower. Why? Because if it is on a faster rate, you can likely have cracking, okay, due to internal shrinkage, right? So drying is again of two steps or two ways. One can dry the bricks, natural and artificial. So natural drying, I think by this word itself you can understand. Natural drying means we are drying the bricks just with the help of sunlight. Okay. Uh, One big advantage of natural drying is we are trying to save the fuel. So just we are taking the help of sunlight and we are trying to dry it. So what we do is in this drying, so you can see here, all the bricks will be placed one besides the other, and then they will be left open to the atmosphere for drying. Okay. And also people generally place them in sheds which is having open sides so that free circulation of air will be there and good sunlight will come into it, and such that our bricks will not become wet due to rains. Okay. So either of the walls, like shed like structures, right? So the top surface will be closed and the others, the sides will be a little bit open. So as told, you can see the last point, the bricks are allowed to dry till they are left with 5 to 7% of moisture content. So up to 7% of moisture content will be left in the drying process, and then once it goes for burning process, this moisture content also will be evaporated. Next comes artificial drying. So what do you mean by artificial drying? So artificial drying means you're taking the help of a machinery or any artificial mechanism to dry the bricks. And if you want the drying process to be very quick or immediate, then you should go for artificial drying. Why? Because natural drying takes a lot of time, days, months together. So artificial drying can be adopted, and the temperature what we supply in artificial drying is less than or equal to 120 degrees centigrade. So it will not exceed 120 degrees centigrade, and we have two ways or we have two types of dryers which can be adopted for artificial drying of bricks. One is tunnel dryer and the other one is hot floor dryer. So coming to what is tunnel dryer and what is hot floor dryer. So if you talk about tunnel dryer, generally the tunnel dryers are heated up by fuels underneath with the help of steam pipes or by hot air from the cooling kilns, and they are more economical than floor dryers. Okay. So if you see here, I can show you the diagram here. Right, this is a tunnel dryer. You can see the dryer is in the form of a, the shape of the dryer is in the form of a tunnel. That's why it's so called like that. So you can see here, we try to fill the bricks in layers and we try to send the complete set of bricks through that tunnel, and in that the tunnel will be completely heated up, and once the bricks pass through that, it gets dried. Okay. So we can see the base will be having rollers, and once you try to move it, it will enter through the tunnel and it will come out, and hence as told earlier, the temperature could be nearly around 120 degrees centigrade, and hence it will help in drying. Next we have hot floor dryer. So the name itself is specifying that the floor will be hot here. So what we do is on the floor itself the drying process will takes place, but how means the uh, underneath of the floor means the bottom of the floor will be already heated up with the help of fuels, and also on the heated floor we are trying to place the bricks. Okay, and once you try to place the bricks on that heated floor, what will happen automatically? The moisture content will be evaporated from the bricks. Okay, and one has to take care that once this drying process taking place, uh, you do not keep one brick besides the other, means you try to maintain a good gap between the bricks. Why? Because they're already having moisture content in it, so they may get sticked one with each other. So ensure little bit space in between the bricks, and then try to dry them. And on the hot floor dryer, what will happen is, since the complete floor is heated up, so from one side you try to send the bricks, and once the drying is finished you collect it from the other side. That's all about drying. Let's go for the last and important step, which is called burning of bricks. So burning, what do you mean by burning? So completely burning step is a very important step. Why? Because ultimately the durability and the strength parameters of the brick will be obtained at this step itself. So the raw bricks are coming to burning action for all the oxidization and all, for all the minerals to get fused with each other, and to give the properties to the brick what we need. So burning is done, and burning process can be done in two ways. Remember, burning process is done for dried bricks only, so you can dry it either naturally or artificially, and whatever bricks come out after drying, they are going for burning. You can do burning in two ways, with the help of a clamp or with the help of a kiln. Okay, so two ways are there for burning the bricks. So right, first of all, what do you mean by clamp burning? Before, as told, yeah, whatever strength, durability we require for our brick, that will be all obtained in burning step itself. So the temperature will be around 1100 degrees centigrade, and if the temperature is extending, or it is crossing 1100 degrees centigrade, your brick may become very brittle in nature, means something like a biscuit. So if you break, it breaks very easily. That's called the brittle nature. So you cannot over burn a brick, and even you can't under burn a brick, means if you are not burning the brick properly, it may still have a moisture content in it, and once it is used as a building material, it will try to absorb moisture from the air itself, from the atmosphere itself. So one has to take care that there is no under burning as well as there is no over burning. Coming to the first type of burning, in the sense I told you, burning can be done with the help of a clamp or with the help of a kiln. I'm talking about clamp burning, means if the burning is done in a clamp, what happens? Some people also call a clamp as pazava, right? So what we do is, it's a very simple process. So you can see here, you can observe the second diagram, where how the pattern of bricks is placed, right? So what we do is, the brick, or the bricks rather, bricks and the fuel will be placed in alternate layers. Okay, so as we are moving to the topper layers, the upper layers, the amount of fuel will be reduced. And what you know, each brick tire, means each layer of the, mean in the sense, each tire, like for example, if you this see the second diagram, you can see here there is fuel, and then you have raw bricks, means this complete raw bricks is called as first tire. Okay, and again you have fuel, again you have second tire of raw bricks. So in the first tire, what we do is, we generally place 4 to 5 layers of bricks. Okay, so, and also some space is left in between the bricks for circulation of hot gases. So after loading the bricks up to 30% of the total amount of bricks you have, you can start the fuel. I mean, you can just set up the burning process, and then you can keep on loading with the other bricks on the top surface. And remember, the clamp is generally constructed out of mud. So what we do is, we coat the inner side of the clamp with the help of cow dung. Okay, so why? Because cow dung can retain your heat. So as to maintain the heat inside, we can keep coat the in, inner side of the clamp with the help of cow dung. Okay, so cow dung will prevent the escape of heat outside. So by this clamp burning, the production of bricks is around 2 to 3 lakhs, and this entire process will be completed in 6 months. So you know, the time duration is more, but one good thing is that the bricks whatever are coming out from this process, like burning through clamp, will give you 60% of first class bricks. So let's see in future classes what is first class bricks, second class bricks. I'll talk there. But you get a good quality of brick through this clamp burning. So you can see that's the front view, and inside it will be looking like this. So first you have fuel, and next again first a tire of raw bricks, then again fuel, then raw bricks, like that alternate layers you are trying to place the bricks and the fuel. Next is, as told, kiln burning. So whatever kiln we are using for burning bricks, maybe underground. Means for example, we have bull trench kiln, which is underground, and we have overground, which is already on the surface of the ground, which is Hoffman's kiln. I'll be showing you the diagrams of that. So generally, these kilns will be sometimes rectangular in shape, circular or oval. And when the process of bricks is continuous, you call the kiln as continuous kiln. Best examples are Bull Trench and Hoffman kiln. On the other hand, if the process of burning bricks is discontinuous, you call it as intermittent kiln. So now I think you could have understood kiln burning is of two types, intermittent and continuous. So intermittent means the operations of burning are not continuous, they are discontinuous. Means what operations will be there generally in burning? Loading the raw bricks into the kiln, putting up the fuel, burning the fuel, means setting the bricks under burning. And then once the bricks are burnt, you need to cool them obviously. Then after cooling, you will take it. Correct? Means that's called as reloading. Then again after first set of bricks are done, again second set. Means what is happening here is the operations like loading, setting up on fire or burning, and then reloading, all will be discontinuous. That's called as intermittent kiln. Okay, see this is a example of an intermittent kiln. So you can see this is the diagram. So you have a door entrance here. So you can see one tire of bricks are placed here. Again in between there is a space to put fuel. Again you have bricks, again you have fuel. So what is happening is near the fuel you have some small passages. Why? Because to ignite the fuel you have given small passages, and even hot gases can escape out through this. So what we do is, you can see there is only one entrance to go inside. So we will go through this door, we will place the bricks, we will place the fuel, we will place the bricks, fuel, and once we come out we close the door. The top surface will be closed obviously. So we will come towards this passage, we will ignite the fuel, means we set the fuel on fire. So the complete burning process is initiated. So the bricks will burn, and after the specific duration, or after the fuel is completed, then we allow the bricks to cool. Why? Because you can't immediately take the hot bricks outside, right? So you allow the bricks to cool down, and once you cool down, again you get back to the door, you open the door and you take the cool bricks. So what is happening is, the operations are not continuous, means you are waiting. You are filling the bricks into the kiln, you are burning them, you are waiting for the burning process to complete, and then you are waiting for the cooling process to complete, and then you are unloading it. So it is taking time, and also it is not continuous. Next comes continuous kiln. As told you, what is continuous kiln? What all operations just now I told you, that will be continuous. As told you just now, examples are Hoffman's kiln and Bull Trench kiln. So what these continuous kilns look like means the cross section may be different. Like one will be oval in shape, one will be rectangular in shape. We are not concerned with the shape actually. What operations can be done in kiln means, like uh, the loading of the raw bricks will be done continuously. In the sense, just try to imagine chambers, means try to imagine room like structures. So we are filling the bricks into one room, and you are setting the first room on fire, then you are going to the second room, again you are filling the second room with bricks, you are setting up fire in the second room, means you are burning the second room bricks, then again you are going to the third room, again you are filling the bricks, again you are burning. So by the time the third room burning of bricks completes, you are coming back to the first one which is already cooled, you are unloading them, again you are filling it. By the time this happens, second room bricks are burnt and they are cooled, you're taking out. So in this complete setup, what is happening? Since there are different chambers, you have different types of operations going on continuously. Means one chamber is subjected to one type of treatment. Means in one chamber, as told, bricks are burning in the second chamber. By the time it will be get cooled, so it will be it is under cooling, the third one will be taken out already, like that. So the operations are continuous. That's why it is called a continuous kiln. So you can see this is the diagram of Hoffman's kiln. It's looking a circular shape. Next you have bull trench kiln, which is oval in shape. Okay. So this is all about the process of manufacturing of bricks. I hope you will surely understand this video. Thank you for watching.